All right, hello everybody. Thank you so much for being here. It's so nice to be in a big Zoom room. That's been a while for me, at least. But my name is Emma Olsen. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm the youth organizing issue organizer through the CCE. So in normal years, that would mean that I am kind of facilitating the public achievement program, where we work with students at North Middle School to go through a youth organizing curriculum of planning and researching and implementing a social change project of their choice in their community. But this year we can't do that because of COVID, obviously. So we've been working as a team to reevaluate our curriculum and preparation, and then build partnerships with Professor Valtierra's youth organizing course, which for those of you who are CC students and who are interested in being involved in youth organizing in the future, those are sort of your two main on-ramps, I guess, for that kind of work. And I'm happy to talk more with you about either of those. But I guess we can start with introducing our panelists. We have a lot of them, which is so exciting. It's nice to be in a bigger community and talk about this important issue with you all. So I guess I will call on you individually, but if you could just share your name, your pronouns, and then your role experience with youth organizing, if you could just summarize that really briefly. Danny, do you want to go first?
Yeah, of course. Hi everyone, my name is Danny. I use pronouns he, him, his, and yeah, I became involved with public achievement my sophomore year at Colorado College, and yeah, I mean that was really just my introduction to grassroots organizing, and it became something that I was really passionate about and something, yeah, just really empowering. Yeah, that's how I became involved.
Karla?
Good afternoon. My name is Karla Iruegas. I am a junior at Colorado College. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I became involved with public achievement since my freshman year at CC.
Tina?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Tina Valtierra. I go by she, her, hers, and I am one of the faculty members in the education department. I originally became involved with youth organizing as a K-12 classroom teacher myself. Actually, elementary school teacher. My students had a lot of questions about their just local community and environment, and it seemed like using their lives and their experiences as a catalyst for teaching and learning just made sense, and kind of just continued to roll with it from there. As Emma mentioned, I also am one of the folks who teaches youth organizing for social change, along with my colleague, Dr. Manya Whitaker in the education department, and Dr. Eric Popkin in sociology. With that particular class, we, in non-COVID life, spend the spring semester at Mitchell High School, doing organizing. Used to be we used public achievement, now we use some approaches to critical pedagogy there. This particular year in COVID, our group created curriculum around several issues that they're passionate about that we're hopeful to implement at Mitchell or elsewhere when it's safe. And I apologize, I will have to leave early for another meeting. So.
Dayana?
Hi, my name is Dayana. I go by she, her, hers. And as a youth organizing, I was one of those Mitchell students that created the DACA scholarship with Danny and a couple other students. But I think that's about it.
Mariana?
Hi everyone, my name is Mariana, pronoun she, her, hers. I started youth organizing when I was like 15. I'm a DACA recipient, so that affects youth, as you guys know. So I started organizing with Colorado Springs Dream Team. And like Dayana said, a couple of Mitchell students came together to form the scholarship with Danny. I'm currently working with Colorado People's Alliance here in Denver, and we're doing a lot of youth organizing here as well to get people's story out there to help with policymaking.
Amazing. Well, I think that is everybody. Thank you all for introducing yourselves. So for some of these questions, I have designated like a couple of people that I had in mind when I was writing them. But if you don't want to answer that question and I call on you, or if you would like to speak to that and I didn't, like, please feel free to jump in or pass or whatever makes you comfortable. But this first one I'll just open up to everybody. It's very general and sort of frames all of the work we do. Why do you think it is important to center and uplift youth voices when we're thinking about movements for social change?
Yeah, so one of the things I experience is, one of the coaches of public achievement is, yeah, with like these high school students, they're still like really passionate and they're more willing to push forward. They're more willing to just be a lot more radical with their thinking versus like once you get like a little bit older, people get busy with work or just have like other obligations and things like that. But it's just really important to try to get young people involved in politics and teach them, try to like, guide them as to like, because they have that passion, they have that fire, but it's like the how to do those things. Yeah, so I don't know, young kids are just like so passionate, so why not involve them?
Going off of that, with my work with youth, I realized that, when you're standing in front of middle schoolers and high schoolers, you're looking at the future. And it is them who will have to face the issues that are in the present, and it is them who know exactly how it affects them and who can better envision in their purity and in their innocence how it will affect them and how best to solve them. It's sometimes just with maturity coming and academia, it actually gets in the way. That if we simply listen to the innocence of childhood or youth, then we will find solutions for something we wouldn't have thought about.
I would also add that historically, social change really has been led by youth. And so even if you think about the civil rights era, a lot of the work, the really hard work, and even putting, young people putting themselves in the front lines, young people willing to go to jail, young people willing to risk something that sometimes as an adult isn't as easy to risk. For instance, now, I'm an old lady and I have 3 children and I'm relied upon to maybe feed my family in a way that when I was younger, I could put myself in some more risky spaces to invoke radical change because it could, to be honest. And so I think that's a really important space. The other thing that really strikes me is the need for youth adult partnerships, in authentic youth adult partnerships, in that there are things that I don't know. I don't know what it's like to be a young person living through a global pandemic right now. I know what it's like to be me living through a global pandemic, but I don't know. And so it's really, really essential that we partner together and we use the strengths and the assets and resources that we might bring differently to the table to when we come together, then we can really invoke change. So those are a few of the other reasons.
I think kind of picking back on what everybody has said, I feel like youth have more of a radical mindset. They are definitely ones who have pushed for policies to be moved forward. They have forms of social media that the older generation kind of haven't really like either figured out 100%, but a lot of those media um, oh my God, sorry, my mic went muted. A lot of the policies have been pushed because of social media and because these youth are pushing it through media. And like Tina said, a lot of us are a lot of us are willing to risk everything for these policy changes to happen. And so I think having youth involved, it not just creates space, but it also allows us to have our narrative out there for these policy um, to happen.
Yeah, thank you all so much. I could not agree more with everything that you've said. I wonder if Dayana and Mariana and Danny, you guys could just explain a little bit more about the work you did at Mitchell and what you've done outside of that space, and what you learned from that experience about youth organizing, about like effective youth adult partnerships, whatever you want to share. Maybe what was like challenging.
Yeah, so this idea came out due to, so like I mentioned before, I am undocumented, I'm a DACA recipient. I was telling one of my friends, I was all like, it was my senior year, and I realized how hard it was to find scholarships that weren't just for like US citizens. And so I was telling her, I was like, dude, like we should do something. Our Mitchell, like Mitchell just focuses a lot around like community. And I was like, let's test this, like, let's challenge this community mindset. And so later on throughout the school year, there was like a project that we had to do. And so we wanted to make that project around making a scholarship for undocumented students that are here in Mitchell. And so, yeah, Danny and his team came and pitched a couple of ideas, kind of picked at her brain a little bit. And then that's how we started to like organize around like the scholarship. A lot of the scholarship money that we got was funded because of like the community around us. It was through faculty, it was through staff, some of the students there too. So a lot of it was, yeah, a lot of community organizing. And we also, well, Mr. Lessing, he put on a, I forgot what it was called, like a storytelling festival, I think that's what it was called. And he allowed for those funds to go to the scholarship as well. So it was a lot of collaborating with a lot of people. I think what Danny and his team brought was a lot of connections as well. He definitely allowed us to like open our minds a little bit more to like other possibilities. Um, at first, I was thinking of doing like a 5K to get people like super engaged, but like I don't know. I think having the GoFundMe page definitely challenged that the aspect of community. Like everybody definitely pitched for all these students who got the scholarship to get it. So that's what I got out of it.
Yeah, I think what was really cool to see out of this was how like passion, like I mean, you guys were all already like really passionate about such various topics. Like when we did that issue convention, and you guys just presented an idea that you guys really cared about. Um, you guys like already really had that passion. What felt like was kind of like important was just like bringing like that group together. Of there was like a group of people that cared about immigration, but like all of you guys were, I mean, super intelligent. You guys cared about it, and caring about like a topic can go such a long way. And a lot of times in the classroom, we don't really have space to be radical, or like at least I don't remember having a space like that like in high school. Um, but yeah, just I mean, allowing you guys to just be creative and come up with all these different like ideas was, I felt like, was really important because yeah, I mean, you guys were just all freaking awesome. They were just mainly kind of just trying to like guide that a little bit, and yeah, like bringing those resources because yeah, CC like has a lot of connections, and we don't really get to connect with a lot of places like Metro High School. But yeah, you guys were awesome. It was just like bringing those awesome people together.
I think like one of the challenges while making the scholarship was spreading the word a bit at school, because there was a lot of DACA recipients and immigrants that didn't really know about it, and or we didn't, like, we were spread it through Facebook, but we didn't have a lot of those people as friends on Facebook. So I think it was a pretty hard challenge. I also think that we were bump heads a lot because we were arguing a lot, but at the end we were like, it's not about us, it's about them, which I really liked. But other than that, I really liked how we thought about the community, how I stepped out of my comfort zone to do something about it. And now I'm a CNA helping other people, like getting other people to be excited, like help the community, not just older adults like in their mid 40s and stuff. You know, like let's look at younger people, like let's get these people to have an education.
Thank you. Yeah, that was such an incredible project, and I love hearing a little bit more about the process of it and how you all have made it sustainable and like carried forward everything that you've learned into your life outside of that. I wanted to piggyback off of something that Danny said before Tina has to leave, because I'd love to hear from you on this one. How do you think we can better incorporate social justice and like youth voices for change into schools and like into classrooms on a daily basis, and just like help honor students' identities while like pushing students to think more radically? So I'd love to hear from Tina on that, but we've all been students, so anybody else who wants to jump in and share their expertise and ideas for that would be great as well.
Whew, that's a big one. I think it would start with abolishing the entire system as it is at the moment. Currently, our system is really hyper-focused on testing and testing from a very white middle-class narrative that does not represent the youth that make up our schools anymore. And so I think it would be thinking quite radically as to what school could be and should be. And at the same time, I know in my own experience when I've had the opportunity, or maybe even sometimes did it anyways and abolished maybe what I was supposed to be doing and did what I knew was best for my students, they also excelled academically, right? Like they could do the tests, they could read, they could write, they could think, but they were doing it with material and content that they were passionate about and that meant something to their lives and their communities. And so there is a way to develop academic skills in schools, but do it completely radically different than we are at this present moment, that really is about partnering. Once again, those youth adult partnerships. There's no reason why as educators we shouldn't be asking our students what they want to learn and why they want to learn it and how they'd like us to go about that. Because if a student's sitting at the seat of the student, they know what's working for them and what isn't working for them. I know a lot of stuff. I mean, I have a PhD in education. I could help, right? But I don't know exactly what it is that, you know, makes this particular room of students tick, and they do, and they can tell me, and I can customize things around that. So one thing that we do use in education in some spaces is this notion of critical pedagogy. Which is really this cycle of praxis, which is really the cycle that's often used in organizing, which is identifying a community problem, researching that problem, coming up with a plan of action, acting on it, reflecting on that action, and then thinking about the next step in that problem, which is often a cycle that folks go around in organizing, but there's no reason that that can't, in my dream world, be happening in our schools. And should be. It does in some pretty fantastic places, but doesn't happen enough.
to go off what Tina said, when I was in high school, I went to a summer program at CU Boulder. It was called Aketsa. And so what this program, basically this program got a bunch of like Chicano and Black history to come together. And through that history, we really learned about like self-empowering through our identity, our cultural identity to be more specific, and how that goes along with like youth organizing and how we have a voice through our identity, because it's really important. A lot of us, hate to say it, but a lot of us are whitewashed. You know, we have to decolonize our thinking in academia. And so once you do so, you're able to use your voice and give it to other people as well. So anyways, as I was saying, so I think having that type of material in our schools can be very important. And for a while when I was at Mitchell, excuse me, because I took that summer program for 2 years. And so I saw how that developed me, because that was one of the biggest things. Like I was very afraid to say that I was undocumented, you know, things like that. And so through that program, I was able to develop more of my identity, really get grounded into it, and be able to express myself and what I wanted to learn and what I wanted to do with my career. So I definitely expressed that to our principal at our high school. And so through that, we were able to get an ethnic studies class, which was really awesome. And people are able to engage in a curriculum that has something to do about them. Like they have something to care about and they have something to look forward like to. Like Tina said, how are you expecting for these students to be engaged with the material if it's not even about them? It doesn't revolve around them and what they want to learn. And so, yeah, I think definitely including material that revolves around their identity and about what they want to learn definitely pushes them to also do youth organizing and have empowerment in their own voice in their own communities. So yeah.
I think going off of that, as a high school student, I would say that a lot of the issues was simply that the staff and faculty weren't willing or able to listen. They would say, you know, you can come in and talk to us. You could, but they wouldn't listen. Or they would say that they knew exactly what you needed to solve your issue. You know, I simply had the biggest issue because they told me that my documentation at school was wrong because my race was stated as white and my ethnicity was stated as Hispanic. No, it is not wrong. That is the case. I am white and I am Hispanic. And that is my identity, and I need you to respect it and honor it. And you are not listening to me because you were saying that I need to change it. And if when you finally accept that I'm white, then you ask me why I'm applying for scholarships for low income. Why am I applying? Because I am low income. Does it say that I was born in Mexico? Because I was. And I'm asking you to help me navigate the system with this mixed identities that I myself struggle with. And all you can do is tell me that you don't understand me and you don't want to listen to me because you cannot take that I am Hispanic yet white. So simply listening and honoring the identities, whatever that might be, whether that be race, ethnicity, nationality, language, sex orientation, gender identity, simply listening and being willing to hear whatever might come out of the student. And honoring it, I think, is a big step that I myself never enjoyed while in high school.
Yeah, thank you all so much for sharing. Just to go off of what Karla was saying, because we've talked about a lot of these systemic factors that need to change, and then also like individual relationship factors that need to change. What do you think an effective youth-adult partnership looks like and needs to have in order to be equitable and actually serving the interests of youth instead of the interests of the school system as we know it, like we've been talking about?
Yeah, I think as like coaches, we really tried to, think of ourselves more as facilitators rather than teachers. Um, and I guess that like we tried to like kind of encapsulate like some of those ideas that you guys have already articulated, where rather than pushing our ideas, trying to and have that be like the influence of the classroom, letting you guys influence the classroom, letting you guys create the culture of what you guys wanted to do, and just trying to say no a lot less. Um, yeah, because I mean, you guys had a lot of really cool like ideas. I mean, you guys wanted to like have a carnival, like have like a 5K, all these like really cool things. But like rather than like saying no, we try to be like, all right, like let's see if we can make this work. And you guys did like all that research. That was like all of you guys. But then refocusing like on that goal of, well, like we want to like have this like scholarship, and we want to do this in the smallest like, because we only had like a couple of months to do this. Like we want to do this in this amount of time. So yeah, like really just trying to think of ourselves as facilitators to guide that creativity, guide that passion, guide that radicalism, rather than just saying no and imposing our own ideas.
I think simply knowing that we're there to uphold the youth and there to be the ones making the changes, and keeping that in mind always is the best thing.
Diana or Mariana, do you guys have anything on that that has either like worked well in your organizing experience, or something that you would like to do in the future?
Can you repeat the whole question again? I'm sorry.
Yeah, no worries, sorry. What does an effective youth adult partnership look like that is supporting youth visions for change, but not like putting pressure on youth to like carry the world on their shoulders? Because I feel like that can also happen sometimes. So what would that look like to you to feel supported in your like visions for change in your organizing work?
Yeah, for sure. I think mentoring is a big one. I've been super fortunate to have a mentor when it comes to like organizing. Um, I think it's definitely like that mentorship definitely expands like the way that I lead, like my leadership skills and like organizing. As well, like I think I mentioned it before, like my own narrative. I think for a very long time I had this narrative of, oh, I have to feed my sob story as an undocumented student. And that's not true. Like, that's not true. And my mentor definitely like helped me develop my story to be more empowering instead of a sob story. And so yeah, that mentorship is incredibly important, how helping us be connected to like resources, helping us get connected to other people who are doing the same type of work as we are. I think when it comes to like organizing, I think a big part of it is having in mind that it's also community organizing. You can't get a lot done if it's individual. And if you have an individualistic mindset, you're not going to get very far. So definitely connecting us to those people who have the same mindset or a very similar mindset to work through these projects together is very important. So yeah.
I don't really have a lot to say, but when it came to Danny and the other students, like what kind of ideas do you guys have? I think they did a pretty good job, because a lot of us wouldn't say things. We were like, stay quiet, but it's not like that. I felt like they really pushed us to like think outside the box and like get out of that comfort zone. Like it's not just about you. Maybe it is, but not really. It's more like maybe a family member or cousin, something like that. Maybe your next door neighbor that needs that help and you have the voice to do something about it.
Amazing, thank you. I guess kind of to wrap things up, and before we move on to some of our audience questions, how has this year, like in all of its, everything that this year has been, affected your organizing work? Is there anything, I feel like there's stuff that I have learned that has been like positive that I can like take forward into a non-COVID environment. So if you have anything that you'd like to share about that, or just anything that has been really tough for you in your work, like emotionally, whatever you're willing to talk about.
So for me, when it comes to organizing, like I mentioned before, I'm part of Colorado People's Alliance. And so a lot of our meetings have been through Zoom. It's very hard to have that sense of community when it's through like a computer. It's a lot harder to organize in general, as well, just kind of getting that message out there, because I'm on the immigrant strategy team. So we target a lot of like immigrants, and a lot of the immigrants that we want to have our audience around is like older immigrants, so they can get like more knowledge around like policies and like know your rights panels and stuff like that. So it's been very difficult to get those type of people involved, just because of like technology. It's very hard for them to figure out technology, how to like register for an event, how to get onto Zoom, things like that. So it's been pretty hard to like organize around like older people. I think another thing though that COVID has provided for me, it definitely allowed me to step outside of my comfort zone when it comes to organizing. I definitely focused a lot on like immigrants and just immigrants, you know, because it hits home a lot. But lately I've been trying to expand my organizing. So now I'm working with a women's shelter for like homeless women. So that's what I'm like focusing on, and definitely seeing how I can get resources to these women, like whether it be like food or whether it be mental health. So I think COVID has definitely allowed me to like expand my horizons a little bit more, and see other communities that need help and not just like immigrants. So yeah, that's what COVID has done for me so far when it comes to organizing.
Yeah, I think a lot of times, as like facilitators or as coaches, one of the things that we undervalue is just those like natural peer connections that form like just organically in the classroom, and people have, you know, those inside jokes and they hang out outside of class and things like that. Um, yeah, and those like connections is, I mean, they help a lot with just participation and attendance and things like that, because if you have a friend and you have something to like laugh about, it just, you know, it makes things run just a lot more smoothly. It makes things, you know, happier. It makes things just overall better. So yeah, one of the, in order to like, I guess, combat that, um, things we've been trying to do this year, just, you know, connecting over like a meal, whether it's, you know, just trying to provide people with like Uber Eats codes or DoorDash codes or things like that, or just trying to play games and things like that. Because those natural, just organic connections don't really happen as much in a Zoom classroom. So trying to facilitate other ways for that to happen and, you know, create that space is really important.
As a person that works in like healthcare with the whole COVID thing, the nursing facilities closed a lot of like volunteer hours and like getting schools to come visit and like just help out these elderly. I think it's a big challenge now because, you know, there's been a lot of deaths with the elderly where I work. It's like and they get really sad about it. They want this community to come in and like just talk to them, because as an elder, you really don't have a lot of people to talk to. Like, you're the only people you probably see is a nurse or your doctor, just because. And I think it's pretty hard right now. How can you do it through a Zoom meeting? Because sometimes they just need a touch to know that these people care. So I think that's been a bit of a struggle, and a bit of a struggle for me too, because I take care of these people and it's like really emotional. And I come home and it's like, wow, these people have no one to talk to. They just eat, go to sleep, and that's it.
I think for me, as a leader of 3 programs focused on youth, and knowing that while we have tried to have some sessions over the entire year, it hasn't been possible, and that we're still trying, but it doesn't seem likely. I mean, that's in itself a hard call to take. Because I was a co-founder with one of them last year, and we co-founded it much faster than we thought. So we were really starting to get the students, and the students were very excited about the new program. We were teaching Mandarin, and knowing that, I promised them that I was gonna make my best effort to do it online, and I haven't been able to do it for them. But in the same time, this is a pandemic that's still going, and who knows when it's going to be over, even if it's been a year since the first case in the US. But knowing that the only way that we're going to continue to survive emotionally and psychologically is to continue trying. And that every day, as much as I long to get in the car and go be with them, and we used to teach kindergartners, so they would get up on my legs, although they were told not to, and they would aim on me. And while I want that to happen, and I long for it very much, and just think, even if they don't understand it fully, whenever I do get back to see children, I just want to have the idea, or the feeling that although maybe I didn't get much done this year simply because I couldn't, I can still stand in front of you or children and know that I tried my best, whatever that came to be.
Yeah, thank you all for that. And thank you for continuing your work in like whatever capacity that looks like right now. I know for us in the PA program, it's been a great opportunity to kind of like look inward and like fix a lot of maybe the things that hadn't been working as well on like the training end and like our community building end in the past. So that's been exciting, but like as Karla said, it's like heartbreaking not to be able to do everything that we would be able to do in a normal year. I thought we would open it up now to audience questions. If you all have any, feel free to drop them in the chat or unmute yourself. And if any of you panelists want to ask questions of each other, or just like hear more about something that anyone has mentioned, feel free to do that as well.
Mariana, you had mentioned a group that you were working with and doing some immigration work here locally. Could you remind me the name of who you're working with?
Yeah, so I'm a member with Colorado People's Alliance. So I started doing that work due to, I don't know if you guys have heard of the Geo Center. It's a detention center where they put immigrants at, and while they process their like either deportation or whatever they decide to do. But there was a COVID outbreak in the Geo Center. And so what this organization did, they put a detention lifeline. So the detainees can call this number and report everything that's happening in the detention center, which allows us to record everything that's happening in there, which can be used as like storytelling for future policymaking and for us to eventually, our goal is to take down like that Geo Center. Like it's horrible, like it's completely awful. And so that's how I started off. And then I started off helping with like policy making. We just finished, I don't know if you guys have heard of it, the Safer Aurora and Ordinance Fund. So that was basically where Aurora and ICE wouldn't have any collaboration to get like private information. And then the Safe Ordinance Fund was for like funding so people can have representation in courts. Unfortunately, those bills did not pass, but like that type of work is like the type of work that we're doing with that organization.
Awesome, thank you for sharing. So is most of that work statewide?
Yeah, that's statewide. Yeah, like I'm located in Denver. Other of my colleagues are located in Aurora. There's some in what is it called? Trinidad, Boulder. Like, yeah, it's statewide.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool, awesome. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
I was curious if you guys, if there's anything you guys have learned from working with these youth and these young people, if there's like anything they've taught you that helps you continue your work and like set goals for the future.
Well, this is through the organizations that I co-founded it with my friend. They basically taught us to be ready, not simply for getting in, making it simple to be at that level, but making it harder if that needed to be the case, and accepting it. You know, when we came into the schools, it was because of the way things turned out. It was 2 weeks after we started the original idea that came out to in Christmas out of necessarily nowhere mostly. And 2 weeks after that, we were giving our first lesson. We had met with the principal, and the principal had told us to please be very simple, since we were teaching the world's hardest language. So we were told that the first lesson to be numbers from 1 to 10, which we did. It's true that the class was an hour long, and 50 minutes into the lesson, the students were able to say, read, and write the numbers. And they were asking questions about how to write 20, how to write 100, how to add, how to subtract. And accepting that on the spot, me as a non-Mandarin speaker and my co-founder as a Mandarin speaker, and other 6 members that we had on the classroom, we covered addition and multiplication in numbers from 0 to 1,000 on that hour, when our lesson plan had been from 0 to 10. And we had been told not to go above that. But we were there to serve the children. They were 10 years old, but they needed that. And accepting that, respecting their abilities, and respecting them, what they were asking us to do, because in the end, we were there for them, was something that we had to learn on the spot.
Yeah, I think something I learned during my time as a coach is it's just really important to just be like adaptable and be willing to change like your curriculum or your standard plan or whatever ideas you might have coming into something. Um, because yeah, like as you guys like came up with all these different ideas and were organizing the scholarship, like there were definitely like a lot of hiccups that came up and different things that we had to parse out, and we had to create space for those things. So yeah, just being just trying to be like flexible the best that we could.
I was wondering if there's anyone at Mitchell who is still working on the scholarship you guys started, and if we can continue to support that, if you all know.
So I had a conversation with Mr. Lessing about this because I was really curious to it as well, because I was worried. I wanted to keep the momentum going. He said that the next I guess they have the storytelling festival every year. And so he said that the funds that he got from that year, he would also contribute to the scholarship and keep it going. But that was like a year ago. But as far as this year, I have no idea if someone is continuing that work. I have no idea.
Yeah, from what I remember, there was this girl like Jubilee who graduated last year who tried to like continue that through the art fair to fundraise for the Docker scholarship. And then last year I tried to do a little bit of fundraising on my own through like GoFundMe and just different avenues that I could find, but um, I kind of fell through because of COVID hit, and also there was like a change in the with somebody I was like working with there, like somebody left, and it was just kind of hard to find connections after that, especially with everything going virtual. But yeah, Jubilee was the last person that I heard of, and Robert, who, like really worked hard on this project.
Thank you. Yeah, I definitely love to keep an eye on that in the future. And like you guys have already done such incredible work and really helped people with that. I think that's one of the hard parts of like defining youth as like a year you are in school. Like it almost feels silly during this conversation, like to be making distinctions between like youth and adults, because like we all have such different definitions of like when one ends and the other begins. And Mariana and Dayana, like we aren't that far apart in age at all. It was just like a dynamic of like working with you all between like high school and college students at the time. So that's something I have been thinking about a lot lately, and like in terms of framing this conversation too. I feel like effective adult partnerships, especially like in schools, are ones that can like keep the work going with like new generations of youth, because that's just like a space that people naturally cycle through. Do we have any more audience questions? Okay, well, thank you all truly so much for being here. This was such an enriching conversation, and I know I learned a lot from you all today, and like have in the past as well. If any of you CC students are interested in being involved in youth organizing or PA, or sorry, or connecting further with any of our panelists on the work that they've been doing, feel free. I can drop my email in the chat, and I can sort of facilitate those conversations. Let me do that now. Sorry, you can all hear me typing. But if there's nothing else, have a wonderful rest of your days. And thanks again for sharing all of your experiences and wisdom.
Yes, thank you, Emma. Thank you for having us. And then something else I just also wanted to include, if any of you guys are interested in also participating in Colorado People's Alliance, let me know. I can definitely get you connected to that organization. But yeah, thank you, Emma, for hosting this event.
Mariana, if you have a link that